Here with Reaction, author of the brand new book, Plunder and Deceit, Big Government's Exploitation of Young People in the Future. I call him the great one, Mark Levin. Rare in-studio appearance, my brother. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. You know, you say we live in a post-constitutional America.
Right.
This book, I think, is a very consequential book, like most of your books. Deep thinking, real hard-hitting. We are headed to bankruptcy. You start this book out and you say, can we simultaneously love our children and betray their generation and generations to come? Republicans, Democrats, aren't they really both equally to blame?
Well, they are now. We have a Republican Congress, and we haven't made a single step in progress toward advancing liberty or constitutionalism. The point of this book, really, there's two themes. One is to people our age and older to say, we are destroying this country for the next generation. The massive debt, the unlimited immigration, the phony environmental movement. You saw the president today with another fiat that's going to destroy industries and kill jobs. Across the board, the minimum wage is an attack on youth employment, young employment. So that's for us. And then I want young people to know you have to stir yourselves and inform yourselves. You're not going to get this information in college or high school or through the media or the culture. You need to inform yourselves, and you need to learn and know that this is an attack on you more than anybody else.
You know, you go back to great philosophers and our founders and our framers and the Federalist Papers and Burke and Montesquieu and de Tocqueville. You really lay the foundation. You eviscerate leftism. You eviscerate the ideology as a failed ideology. Do you think America's waking up to that fact, or is America literally risking a decline that it can never recover from?
I don't know. But I do know this. If we don't fight this, that's inevitable. And I think a lot of the Republicans think that this radical left agenda is inevitable. And I think the left thinks they're on a high now. They're running away with the country. My attitude is, from the grassroots up, whether it's the Reagan Revolution, the Tea Party Revolution, or young people in this country joining with their parents and their grandparents, we do need to take this country back. And what I've done in this book, I've taken every major issue that I think is out there right now, whether it's the debt, entitlements, and so forth, immigration, and I address it, what the left has done to this country, how they're eviscerating our traditions and our institutions, and I'm trying to shine a light on it so young people can see it, and I've done it in a way I think that hasn't been done before.
You know, again, plunder and deceit. So there's no Social Security lockbox. You talk about that. You talk about the debt. Social Security is bankrupt. Medicare is bankrupt. Obamacare premiums are going to go up on average 40% a year. And then we see politically right now, Donald Trump's leading in all the polls, 26% in the most recent poll. Donald Trump, non-politician, bold, outspoken, iconoclastic. Is this related to what you're describing?
It is related to it. I think what Trump has done here is people aren't even sure where he stands on all the issues. They just know they are sick and tired of politicians. You know, people say, I have a resume. I've been a governor. I've been a senator. I've been a congressman. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's the problem, because you guys aren't getting anything done. I think the conservative base has been lied to repeatedly. In 2010, we gave them the House. In 2014, we gave them the Senate. These guys go home, these Republicans, they lie about what they're going to do on Obamacare. They have funded every penny of it. They lie what they're going to do about immigration. But what I'm saying here is, look, we should not give up on our children and grandchildren, give up on the next generation. Why would we allow the left to control their fate? Why do we allow the left to control all these institutions? And so that's why I go through really like a prosecutor's brief, issue after issue, trying to expose what the left has done, and then beyond that, trying to explain what we need to do.
You cite different polls in the book, and this is, most Americans now think that for the first time, the next generation will be worse off than the previous generation. That's profound. And
it's a fact.
It's a
fact because not of the civil society, not because of the private sector, not because of the individual, not because of wholesome families and so forth, but because of central government policy. And it's been really heightened under Obama, but it is a constant attack on our traditions. When he talks about fundamental transformation, what he's talking about is destroying the American lifestyle, shutting down coal mines today, shutting down steel mills, shutting down fisheries.
All right, but here's where we are. You're right. We've been deceived. We've been lied to. Really, I think you can argue that the money was stolen from the Social Security Trust that was supposed to be put in a lockbox. There's no lockbox. So as we look at all of these issues, I see that Republican governors have been reform-minded, and I think they've done a lot of, some, not all, some have done a good job, some have transformed their states, but I don't see Washington Republicans as that bold alternative, a revitalized party that Reagan talked about. Do you see that this election is that tipping point? Do you see that conservative emerging?
There are several good candidates running. There's several that I can't support.
Who do you like?
But I'm not going to get into. Well, there's a bunch of them that I like, but you're only giving me 5 minutes, so I can go through each one of their background.
This is minute 9. But go ahead.
I know, but I can tell you this. What I'm looking for, and I think what conservatives are looking for, is somebody who's principled and is reliably principled now, and somebody who can take the conservative message to the American people and connect it up with what's going on today. I think one of the reasons why Trump is so popular is, first and foremost, he took that immigration issue and turned it around completely. No, everybody isn't coming here because they love us. No, everybody's not coming here because they want to take jobs Americans aren't doing. A lot of people are coming here who are not honorable, and a lot of people are coming here who don't want jobs. They want to participate in the welfare state.
You talk about the plunder, the deceit, the debt, Social Security, education, immigration, the environment, all of these issues, national security. You're going to come back later in the program, and you call for what you say a new civil rights movement. You have an answer. We'll get to that when you join us later in the program.
All right.
I love the book, Plunder and Deceit, the great one, Mark Levin. He'll join us later. But first... Welcome back to Hannity, back with us to talk about his brand new book, consequential as always, in stores tomorrow, Plunder and Deceit, Big Government's Exploitation of Young People in the Future. I call him the great one, Mark Levin. You know, I pulled out of your book some stats you put in there. You got over 60 pages of footnotes in this book, which is...
It's a 200-page book with a bunch of endnotes if people want to delve in further, yes.
All right, well, which I think is valuable to your reader. Yeah. This is stunning. For those of us that are conservative, believe in limited government, greater freedom. All right, look at this. Number of pages of regulations in the Federal Register. You go year by year, it's like 75,000 at least a year, 79,000. Total number of regulations in the Federal Register in the past 10 years, 768,920. Then you put in there the number of regulations issued by the executive branch. This is just the executive branch, new regulations, fiat, bypass Congress like Obama. Then you put in the number of bills passed by Congress, which is nearly next to nothing. They have no power anymore. How do you explain this shift in power, especially under Obama, the executive branch?
Well, Congress doesn't defend itself. Under the Republican Congress, they surrendered the power of the purse. They surrendered the power in the Senate of treaty making. The word impeachment is never spoken. It's hushed, but it's never spoken. There are powers that Congress have that can control a president, but they will not exercise it. And yet over the decades since the New Deal, the executive branch has seized authority, and the congressional branch has thrown authority to the executive branch. So we really have this fourth estate, this massive bureaucracy. The EPA is the worst of it, that is passing laws. So the whole constitutional structure has been turned on its head. We do not have a constitutional republic. We don't have a federal republic. We don't have a representative republic. We don't have a republic right now.
Then let me ask you about the Republicans. 2013, remember, 2010, 2012, all these guys ran on the idea they're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. So one Senator, Ted Cruz, filibusters and says, let's use our constitutional authority, power of the purse. He gets excoriated by the very people that made the same promise. Then we hear they're going to stop in 2014 in that election cycle. They'll stop executive amnesty. They end up funding executive amnesty. So obviously they know what we want to hear, but then they can't deliver. Why?
They won a majority in Congress on a lie, didn't they? They lied their way into the majority. Look, what this is going to take is a strong conservative getting the nomination in the Republican Party. People under 45 have never had an opportunity to vote for a conservative for president. It's time. You realize Ronald Reagan wouldn't be president if the Bush family had succeeded. And they're back, and that whole force is back, and they keep beating down conservatives like we can't win. When
but it's Lindsey Graham, it's John McCain.
Thing. They're the same mentality. These are big government, Washington-centric Republicans. John McCain's running for re-election. Guess what? He's lurching to the right. Lindsey Graham was running for re-election. He's lurching to the right. People are sick and tired of this.
Let's talk about the Democrats. There's an interesting moment on Chris Matthews'
They're lurching to the left, and they're staying to the left.
Well, the only interesting moment he's ever had. He asked Debbie Wasserman Schultz the difference between a Democrat and a socialist. Watch this exchange.
What is the difference between a Democrat and a socialist? I used to think there was a big difference. What do you think it is?
The difference between
a Democrat like Hillary Clinton and a socialist like Bernie Sanders.
What's the difference between being a Democrat and being a Republican?
Well, what's the bigger difference? What's the big difference between a Democrat and a socialist? You're the chairman of the Democratic Party. Tell me the difference between you and a socialist.
The relevant debate that we'll be having over the course of this campaign is what's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
I think there's a huge difference.
What is the difference?
I think the Democrats are more left-wing than the socialists. I think that's the difference. I think they're more Marxist than the socialists.
Yeah.
You know, at least the socialists are out of the closet. We know who they are. Obama, I think, is even further left than that.
Let me ask you, you go through all the problems in the book that we're facing and how we're destroying this country for future generations.
And who did it? And who did it?
And who did it? And you name names, and you go through every aspect. Then you say there, in your last book you talked about the Liberty Amendments. In this book you talk about a new civil rights movement. Where do Liberty Amendments stand, and what's the new civil rights movement?
The Liberty Amendments are there, and people should continue to press for a convention of the states, bottom up. I talk grassroots all the time. We believe in federalism. We believe in the 10th Amendment. Washington is not going to correct the design that he created. Obama's on the loose. Congress is on the loose. The courts are on the loose. And Article 5, the Convention of the States, is what the framers gave us to fix that. What I've done here is I said, you know, young people, you need to stir yourselves. You need to inform yourselves. Every poll shows that you resist authority. Every poll shows that you don't like the status quo. Every poll shows you don't like or trust government. And yet you vote for all three of those in every election cycle.
We're robbing them blind.
And they're robbing themselves blind. And so what I'm saying is you need to stir yourselves, inform yourselves. And yet, you know, you and I, our generation, parents and grandparents, we say, you know, what's wrong with these kids? I'll tell you what's wrong with these kids. We send them to schools that are left-wing with left-wing tenured professors. The media is left-wing. It is endless. The drumbeat out of Hollywood, the culture is left-wing. The politicians. It's time that people, you, me, parents and grandparents, there's millions of us, that we be the Paul and Paulette Reveres, and we inform our kids, have them informed, so they challenge the professors, so they challenge the media, so they do what needs to be done. I'm calling for, or pushing for, just like there was a Tea Party movement, a Reagan movement, a conservative movement, a real new civil rights movement. Al Sharpton's not a civil rights movement, he's a huckster. A real civil rights movement where we advance liberty, prosperity, private property rights, capitalism, American sovereignty, and individual sovereignty. That's what we need to do, and that's what I'm pushing for.
Well, this is a tipping point and in terms of the survival of this republic. And this is a rallying call. Love the book. Mark Levin, the great one. All right, you can catch his radio show every day as well. When we come back.